Good morning, students. Welcome back to the English video class. In my last video, I had taken up reading skill 1 and it dealt with reading comprehensions. What do you mean by reading comprehension? What are the ways you can solve or learn how to do a comprehension passage or paragraph? In this video, we will learn one more type of skill or a way how to solve a comprehension passage. Now, there are different ways to understand a comprehension passage. So let's begin with our reading skill 2. Okay, before I move on to my reading skill 2, let us quickly recap what we have understood by reading comprehension. Now, why do we read? We read to gather information. We read to learn how to do certain things. We read to understand the opinions of other people, and we also read so that we can entertain ourselves. So this is what reading does. Supposing you're walking out in a town outside in the city, to know what the shop is about, you need to read the hoarding. So if you don't know how to read and understand what is written on the board, you won't be able to know what the shop is about. So we all need to read and learn how to read. Now, as a reader, we should always be able to understand the words which are written in the passage. It means the vocabulary. The vocabulary in the passage, if you're able to understand them, then you will be able to create the meaning of the sentence and also know what exactly the passage is about. So, in general, a comprehension means the ability to understand something that is in a written form or in a listening form. Now, why do we usually have these kind of comprehension tests? Why do we need to solve these comprehension passages? We do so to prove that we understand the language, or to improve ourselves if we are not better in it. So if you want to better your English learning skills of reading and understanding, you need to learn how to solve comprehension passages. Now, as a reader, as a person who is able to read the passage, you should be able to then answer the questions that are followed after the comprehension passage gets over. And you do that only if you understand the comprehension. So first, most important thing is to read the comprehension, try and understand the vocabulary and what the passage is about. In the last video also, I had shown you the ways of reading a passage. Okay, these are different ways of reading a passage. Many students have many varieties or moods of reading. Some will like to summarize their comprehension passage. Someone will like to question the material which is written in front of them. Someone will like to predict that what will happen next in the story, I don't know. So let's predict what things can happen. Some will like to monitor. Usually we use the monitoring way for studying something properly. So is the text making any sense to me? So I need to monitor my reading skills, whether I know the vocabulary, whether I am able to understand the passage or not. Okay, the next type of students, they usually infer. Infer means they usually ask themselves, how do I feel when I read this passage? Does this passage make me sad, happy, think about someone? Or does this passage bring me some kind of emotion. The other form of students, they read a passage. While reading a passage, they try and make connections. Connections like what I know about a topic. For example, in the comprehension passage, you are asked varieties of topic. You can be asked about nature. The topic may be of nature in the comprehension passage. It may be about a garden. It may be about a person like Thomas Alva Edison. It may be about a well-known actor or actress. It may be about space, animals, palms. So then you need to make connections with what do I know about these certain topics? And then you start understanding the passage. And in this video, you are going to learn the next type of way of reading a passage is to visualize. Now, visualizing means that while you are reading the passage, you can imagine how the character looks, how the place looks, or how the person would be. That is visualizing. Okay? Imagining as you are reading the text. This normally happens when you are reading a novel, a fairy tale, a folklore, or a fable. Okay? So the visualizing way of reading of the passage is what we are going to learn in this video. I hope it turns out to be exciting for you. What is visualizing? Visualizing means creating an image in your mind while you are reading the text. It reflects the character, the events, the topics, or information in the text. Writers, they often use language to appeal our senses, and this is called a sensory language. It helps to picture in our minds what is happening in the text. So, for example, if the sentence reads out to be that my mother is cooking delicious, frosty, chocolate melting cake. So it actually appeals to your senses of hunger, and you start imagining how the cake would look. So that is what a visualizing passage or a sentence does to your mind. And you need to learn this to create an image in your mind. This way also helps you to understand the passage properly and retain it. You will be able to remember it. Now, to create these images, you need to concentrate on what you are reading. This can improve the understanding of the text. Now, visualizations, imaginations, they usually keep on changing as you read the text. So if I say actually that the day was rainy, the ground was muddy, there was pool of water everywhere, my clothes got dirty, they became brown with mud. So the imagination will keep on changing. From the rain falling in the sky, I start to imagine the ground, the roads which are filled with water and mud, and then I imagine my dress to be dirty, muddy, brown in color. Now, how do you train yourself to imagine and understand? The more you practice, the easier it becomes. So the most important thing is to read. Try liking to read. Concentrate in reading. Whatever you like, you can pick up and read, but read so that you will be able to master this skill of comprehension passage. It will help you in your forthcoming years. So then how do you visualize? These are the simple questions that you ask yourself when you are reading a chapter, a book, a novel, or just a comprehension passage in a test paper. Okay, so you ask what the writer is describing. Whoever has written the passage, what actually the person wants to describe. How is the writer appealing to the five senses? I hope you know what are your five senses. You're seeing, you're listening, you're speaking, you're smelling, and you're feeling. So, while you're reading the passage, you need to understand and know what is the writer trying to appeal. Is it appealing my senses, my smelling, my hearing? What? Which words from the text can help me draw a picture in my mind? For example, muddy, brown, rain, pool of water. It helps me to draw a picture in my mind. These words, they help me to draw a picture, to imagine a picture in my mind. How can my knowledge help me to draw a picture in my mind? For example, if I have seen or read about somewhere about water filling on the roads, I can imagine how it looks because I have my own knowledge about it. I have read it somewhere or I have seen on television or photographs. So I can easily imagine that. Okay. How can my visualization, my imaginations help me understand the text? That is the last question that you need to ask to yourself. So with this, we move on to an example activity. Now, this example activity I am doing so that you can understand the activity which you need to do in this video ahead. So this is a passage. I have taken a very small passage on desert. You might all have seen a desert at some point of time in your life. And when I read this passage, I want you to imagine what I am reading. So you are actually not trying to monitor, but you are trying to visualize. You are trying to imagine how the desert or what a desert is looking. So let's start with the short passage. Desert is a large area of land. It has very little water and plants growing on it. Deserts are covered with sand dunes, yellow as shimmering gold. The summers are very hot on a desert area. The air is filled with dust blowing by the strong winds. A collection of rocks, some large, some small, sit lifelessly on the hot desert floor. The blue sky is filled with wispy clouds in various shapes and patterns. It is a lonely landscape with no hint of life. Some of you might be able to imagine what the passage is trying to say. For the ones who had a little difficult time to sit, listen, and imagine, I'll try and help you out. So, what I have to do is I have to start imagining. So, what I do is I close my eyes and I imagine a desert. A desert is usually very big. That is the common knowledge that we all have. So a desert is very huge. Usually in the desert, you do not have any water, nor do you have many plants. And the desert is actually covered with sand. Now this sand on a sunny day is yellow in color and it is shining, it is shimmering. So you observe, you imagine a barren land with a lot of sand on it, with no plants, no water, just the sun up, the sky with clouds, sand which is yellow and is shimmering. And then there are winds which are blowing. There are strong winds which are really hot and dusty which are blowing. And on the sand, you are able to see some very large rocks, some medium rocks, and some very small rocks. And if you see the sky above, you'll be able to see clouds of various shapes and sizes, various patterns. And there is no life, means there is no person, no animal, no insect on the desert. So this is what you actually need to observe. Now, after imagining, the best part of the activity comes. After reading the comprehension passage and imagining how it would look like, I want you to take a piece of paper, your pencil, crayons, or paints, and draw what you can imagine from the text that is there in front of you. So I have already done this activity by myself, and the passage was this on the desert. And let us see how I imagined the passage and how my picture looks like. So let's see how my picture looks like. That is my picture of a desert. Okay, for me, let's go back to the text and remember what the text said and see how much I can recollect from the text. Okay, so if I think I read that the desert was barren, so there was nothing on the desert. There was no plant, so I have not drawn a plant. There was no life, so I have not drawn any animal or a person. And there were no plants, so I have not drawn any plants on the desert. The next thing in the passage I read was that the desert is very huge, is very big. So I have made as much big as I can on the slide, the picture. Okay. Then it said that the sand on the desert looked yellow in color and it was shining, shimmering like gold. So according to me, whatever knowledge I have about the desert, the sun has to be there, very bright, then only my sand is going to shine. So I made sun over there on top, and I made my sand look in different shades because I have never seen a desert having the same view all over, the same type of color of sand all over. So I have mixed my browns with yellows and I've made kind of a different kind of golden colors. Okay, so this is what my sand look like. My sand look like gold, little brown, little dark, little far, little big. Then it said that on the sand they also have different types of rocks. So I created different patterns of rocks because rocks usually don't have the same type and same color. So I have placed my rocks in different sizes, places and color, different shapes. Okay, so these are my rocks on the sand. And the next thing, if I recall in the passage that I read, I think they also told that there was no hint of life, so I have not drawn anything. Yeah, they also told about the sky, that the sky is clear, okay? It has wispy clouds of different patterns. So I have actually created clouds by myself and they are clear. So some are really clear blue clouds, some are a little dark, some are a little big, some are small, some are jumbly. So I have my sky on top. So this is what I have visualized from the passage of desert that I read in my comprehension passage. So this is an example activity that I showed and made you understand. Now comes your part. So in your part, before I give you the passage, let us go through the ways how you can solve a comprehension passage. So these are the ways you can solve a comprehension passage. First is you need to read it very carefully and slowly with full concentration. Next is try and get involved in the passage, try and understand it better. Underline the important lines and parts which you feel like monitoring way of doing it. Then you mark the keywords, the words which you understand and words which you do not understand, or the words that help you make the passage understand more properly. If you don't understand the words, try and look it up in your dictionary, know the meaning, and then join the sentences again to understand the meaning of the passage again and again. So it is not said that you read the passage only once or twice. You can do your reading comprehension passage by reading the passage 4 times, 5 times, 10 times, till the time you do not understand it, and then try and translate whatever you are reading in your mind in your own language. Okay? Keep on reading the paragraph attentively whenever you are in a doubt. Again, go to the paragraph and read it. And then solve the answers in the nearest possible meaning which you are able to understand. So this is the simplest way of solving any comprehension passage. We have done the monitoring way of solving the passage in my last video, and in this video we learned how to imagine and solve the comprehension passage. This is your turn. Now this is a short passage I have given you for a practice activity sort of a thing. This passage is, I will not say the title because I want you to read the passage and imagine, observe what the passage is about. And then after knowing, after reading it thoroughly and knowing what the passage is about, I want you to draw, color, paint, craft, whichever way you want on an A4 sized paper, imagination of the passage that you have read that is in front of you, and you are going to submit it on ERP. Click a photograph of your drawings and post it up on the ERP for me to see how imaginative you can be after reading the passage. If you want, I can read the passage for you. Let's read it once so you'll be able to pronounce the word correctly. It was a pleasant summer morning. The annual school sports function was coming up. The students were busy practicing for various events. Nisha was the house captain of the greenhouse. With all the responsibilities on her shoulder, she ran from one place to another, getting things done. Far away, the school garden looked so beautiful. Nisha excused herself for a little while and went to the garden behind the school auditorium. The garden was filled with beautiful flowers, and lush green grass had spread a carpet that covered the ground. Butterflies, dragonflies, and singing birds hovered around. The pleasantness of the scene calmed her down. As she returned, she was ready to take on all the challenges single-handedly. She realized how nature can provide one with the perfect comfort one desires. I'm not going to say the topic or what the comprehension passage is about. You need to start scratching your brains to imagine how beautifully you can understand and draw the picture on this passage. Now, you already have learned how to do a picture composition, a picture in front of you, and then you're writing about it. This is the opposite of it. You have a reading comprehension passage right in front of you. You need to read it again and again till you can imagine a picture in your mind. Then quickly take your paper, your pencil, pens, crayons, craft material, and draw, paint, craft a beautiful scene of what you visualize, imagine after reading this passage. So I hope you find this passage exciting. And thank you for watching this learning video. This is one of the ways how you can learn to comprehend, to understand a reading comprehension passage. Thank you, and you can subscribe onto my YouTube channel and go to the playlist to follow the videos. I am awaiting for your drawings and your paintings on the ERP. So till then, keep learning.